June 25, 1950, North Korean forces invaded South Korea, starting the Korean War. 2 days later, the United Nations passed a resolution urging members to stop the North Korean aggressors, and the U.S. responded.
Korea is a small country, thousands of miles away. But what is happening there is important to every American. On Sunday, June 25th, Communist forces attacked the Republic of Korea. Free nations must be on their guard, more than ever before, against this kind of sneak attack. We are united in detesting communist slavery. We know that the cost of freedom is high, but we are determined to preserve our freedom no matter what the cost.
The United Nations ordered bombing raids on strategic targets in North Korea. Although the UN effort was to be fought by troops and equipment from several different member nations, the United States was given command of the operation. President Truman appointed General Douglas MacArthur chief of UN forces.
Heading for Korea, the first amphibious task force since World War II moves swiftly through the Pacific. Under a British-American air umbrella, the Armada arrives off Pohang and the landing craft go in.
Despite expectations of opposition, the United States 1st Cavalry Division easily established a beachhead. Its first job was to guard Pohang from North Korean troops advancing southward down the eastern coast. Off the shores of North Korea, the Allied fleet bombarded their positions. Although Russian troops were not among those invading South Korea, Truman blamed the Soviet Union for sponsoring communist North Korea.
If the Soviet Union really wants peace, it can prove it, and could have proved it on any day since last June 25th by joining the rest of the United Nations in calling upon the North Koreans to lay down their arms at once.
Giant recruiting rallies were held throughout the country. Each branch of the armed forces encouraged all able-bodied men to join the fight against communism.
Marines, Navy, foot slugger or flyer, every volunteer helps in the urgent task of building up United Nations strength in Korea.
Newly arrived recruits soon discovered the harsh realities of this war as they worked their way to Seoul.
There's no knowing friend from foe. As tanks spearhead the attack in house-to-house fighting, South Koreans patrol captured areas just in case. Wounded prisoners are brought in for treatment before being sent back to base. It's a tough price the Marines pay for a tough job. America has carried most of the weight in this United Nations war.
After liberating South Korea, MacArthur ordered his forces across the 38th parallel in hopes of unifying all of Korea. Unfortunately, this move brought Red China into the war. Over 1 million Chinese troops pushed the UN forces all the way back to the bottom of the Korean peninsula. Trapped behind enemy lines, the battle-worn Marines must wait for supplies to be airdropped to them before they can hope to fight their way out.
During the days, they've hacked out a landing strip, exhausted though they are. They're hungry, too, and thirsty enough to eat snow. By night, they fight off Chinese attacks as the enemy raids from the mountains.
Eventually, the American and Allied forces would fight their way back to the 38th parallel. On July 27, 1953, both sides agreed to an armistice. The Korean War took a very high toll, particularly on the Koreans and the Chinese. America also paid a high price, losing over 54,000 soldiers. In all, more than 1 million people lost their lives to the Korean War. But the political situation between North and South Korea ended up exactly the same as it had been the day before June 25, 1950, when the Korean War began. Korea was once again divided in half at the 38th parallel.